Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final panel discussion of the day. One of the topical issues at the moment around the world. Every company we've engaged and every stakeholder engagement that we've had, there's been real challenges around the talent and the skills aspect that have been mentioned somewhere across the way. So this panel is very topical at the moment. Every organization is facing kind of the similar challenges, but then how do we build the future in the FinTech education and the upskilling space? And this is what today's panel is all about. The moderator for today is Darren, who has promised us he will be turning off the video and we can have his silky voice for the rest of the session. So Darren, it's up to take it away to you and your Rockstar team. Enjoy.
Thanks so much, Migs. Thanks for that as well. I appreciate it. I will turn off my video. If I get too many complaints come through, I'll turn off my video, I promise. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to MAFH and thank you to the African FinTech Network. It's been a phenomenal day. And I'm delighted to be hosting the last session. So today we're talking about the building the future. So FinTech, education and upskilling. And I'm joined with an illustrious panel who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves. Perhaps we can start with you, Laura. Would you like to give a bit of background to tell everyone who you are, where you are, and sort of your interest and your experience specifically regarding sort of upskilling and skills development?
Sure. Thank you very much, Darren, and I'm very happy to be here. So my name is Laura Martin, and I work at Honoris United Universities, which is the first and largest Pan-African network of higher education with over 45,000 students. So at Honoris specifically, I'm in charge of rolling out Le Wagon, which is the first coding bootcamp in the world. We've rolled out in Mauritius, which is how I met the team here in January, and we're now rolling out in Morocco, which is where I'm based. So I'm passionate about education and technology specifically, so it turns out to be perfect with this panel, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thanks so much, Laura. Chitisha, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Darren, and good afternoon to all the panelists and all the participants. So I am a postgraduate and research in the field of applied computing in Mauritius. I'm currently doing my master's in applied computing at Open University of Mauritius. And I particularly work on the application of artificial intelligence in aspects of societal development. And so most importantly here, I'm representing the Future FinTech Champion Program by the Mauritius Africa FinTech Hub. And Darren, maybe you later on will get on board about this very interesting program. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So we've already had our first mention of AI. We've been running less than 2 minutes, so I kind of know where this conversation's going. But Vidia, if I can pass on to you, sir, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Thank you, Darren. It's great. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I understand that we are being followed by people across the globe. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to every one of you. So myself, I'm the managing director of Ceridian. We are a human capital management software company, and recently we've added digital wallet to our portfolio, and this is growing significantly for us and transforming Ceridian into a fintech company offering financial wellness and consumer services. I'm also the president of Business Mauritius, which is the apex body for the private sector. I'm a board member of Higher Education Commission, which is the regulator in Mauritius, and I sit on the board of an African fintech company dealing with mobile money. And I used to chair the Digital Finance Task Force at the FSC, which is the regulator for non-banking institutions in Mauritius. So later on, I'll tell you my perspective to this conversation is what Ceridian has been doing to build skills for the 21st century skill set.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And last but by no means least, Dr. Bhavish, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and your background.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone listening to us today. I'm very happy to be here on this platform. I'm from the University of Mauritius. However, I have been about 15 years in the banking industry. And for the last 5 years, I'm just sitting in various companies in the FinTech area. I'm concentrating much on the FinTech, basically in terms of FinTech application and the ecosystem. And I'm very much involved in few associations in terms of getting FinTech, the ecosystem down in Africa. So I think from this session, I'll share a little bit of my experience in terms of upskilling in this area of FinTech, which hopefully I will also learn from other panelists. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I was conscious I didn't kind of introduce myself, so apologies. Very quickly, my name is Darren Franks. I'm the CEO and founder of an executive search firm called TalentintheCloud. We provide leadership talent to fintechs predominantly in emerging markets, so specifically fintech and payments. I'm also on the board of the African Women in Fintech and Payments group and community. I do some work with a couple of startups, one called Imali Pay over in Kenya and Nigeria, and a host of other things in my not so spare time. So that's a bit about me. So my interest in when it comes to talent and upskilling and education is what I do for a living. So that's, I think, why Migs and the team have asked me to moderate today. So that's a bit about me. Let's kick off with the first question. I'd like to get the panel's opinion on what do you think are the most in-demand skills now and the most essential skills for a career in fintech. And I appreciate fintech's very broad, but if we can talk at a slightly sort of a high level, that would be really interesting. And Vidia, if I could pass to you, because you mentioned some of the work that you're doing at Ceridian in terms of skills development. What are the skills that you feel are necessary now and are going to be really important moving forward?
Okay, I think that one of the things we need to take stock of is that today everything is being disrupted. Companies, industries are being disrupted. We are becoming much more a knowledge-based economy, and every company is becoming a technology company, regardless of what services you provide. And also the education institutions also being disrupted. The value of education is being questioned today. And why? Because we hear a lot of criticism that in education institutions are not meeting the needs of industry and employability of students. I would say that one of the most important skills, technical skills, is going to be here. I mean, blockchains, data analytics, cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, etc., will continue to evolve and develop. They can also phase out, and new technologies and skills will come up. But I think as we get more into technology, the people skills is going to be the key differentiator. And I think this is, when we talk about robotics, you talk about automation, etc., where there is less and less involvement of humans, but that part of the human intervention is going to be so critical that this is where companies will need to invest. So I would say that the ability to collaborate effectively, whether through a virtual environment and globally, conflict management, teamwork, creativity, and problem solving is going to be key, because this is sometimes very often what has been the gap in terms of a lot of people get excited, startup come up, want to build an organization, but are they really solving problems? Yeah, I think this should be the focus. And also there are more and more problems. I mean, let's look at what's going on, what's been happening in economies, and also because of the health crisis recently, there are new opportunities, and also our ability to adapt and be flexible, because I think this is something that is going to be the differentiator. How quickly can an organization, an individual, reskill themselves, an organization taking opportunities and turning them into profits? Yeah.
Very interesting perspective. Chitisha, I'd love to get your input in this, because you're on the track of starting a career in the fintech world. For you, what skills are you learning? What are you focusing on? And where do you see the future?
So yes, in this industry, I think the focus would be on mobile applications and applications of different kind. We have web applications, application frameworks, which are gaining track, and this is the growing innovation of APIs, the application of artificial intelligence in all its subsets and flavors. We have application of machine learning. We have so many companies investing in machine learning for smarter finance decisions. We have open bank leading the way for automation, and so many interesting knowledge structures. We have low coding platforms gaining prime. And this is the way we want to lead. We want to learn into it, and we want to apply it to be able to survive in the future.
It's super interesting that you mentioned low coding platforms and even no code platforms. I have a specific question on that. I'm going to come back to that a little later on. Please remind me if I forget, because it's quite an important question. Dr. Bhavish, I'd love to get your opinion, because obviously you're a chartered accountant. You're very much coming from the fin side of fintech, whereas I think Chitisha is probably looking at a little bit more from the tech side of fintech. What's your view? What's your opinion?
Yes, thank you, Darren. So as you rightly said, I'm a chartered accountant and an economist. And I would say, as I said, for the last 5 years, I'm more in terms of the tech area in the finance, as you rightly said that. So first of all, I would say that, being a chartered accountant, this is what I realized, that being a chartered accountant by itself for the next 10 years, or where we are going in the future, our job, I won't say just in accountant, but just as an example of an accounting job, that we are really moving ahead, and our job is becoming obsolete. Right? If I don't adapt to technology. So that is one of the reasons I had to readapt myself, reskill myself. I had to do for 2 years back a degree in blockchain and fintech in India. So it took me quite a lot of time. So the reason being, what I felt that the future for clients accounting, as an accountant, the clients that they are seeing, they are all going towards technology. So I realized that, after a few years back, when, we realized that, for example, clients in the hotel sector, everything has changed in a way that we use as an accountant, most accountant, to do our daily job. To start our job, we had to go and do the bookkeeping that we call the initial stage of starting any drafting of the financial statement. So the last 5 years, you would say that, where we go into client's place, let's take an example nowadays, how a hotel is being run. Everything is just on technology, online booking, even there is no reception. Everything where the greeting in the hotels is being done by an iPad. So in an iPad, you're directed everywhere in terms of your room. You are directed to for your dinner, for your breakfast, your swimming pool bookings. So everything is done there. So what it means to an accountant, to a business, especially to an accountant. So when we go there, there is actually no paper. Nothing is there now that we use to take, as our initial base to start our job. So everything is now where you go to that client, they would say, okay, everything is now in the iPad. So what do I do with the iPad? So then I realized that, I have to, all the information, in fact, I have more information that I need to start my job, not financial information, but all the information, be it in terms of the strategy, everything is done there. So then what do I do with the iPad? How do I retrieve the information? So this is where, then I realized that, coding is becoming very important. I have to, what I mean here is that I need to learn the language of the iPad, the language of technology, to be able to see which data, and this is where, big data analysis is coming. So we have lots of information. We have to retrieve that information. What do we do with the retrieval of the information? We have accounting software, which we have to read. So at the end of the day, just to say that if I don't reskill myself, I haven't reskilled myself, how do I serve the client? Right, that is all changing, be it any sectors. So this is, in my opinion, this is how there is some disruption happening probably in my field, some disruption. However, I won't say we are losing job, but there are new avenues that are coming, and if we don't readapt to start with technology, this is where we become obsolete. So this is where I feel that upskilling, reskilling is very important, and this is where we see that emerging sectors are developing, and one of them is fintech.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And that leads me very nicely on to asking Laura. Laura, in terms of, maybe we can get a little bit more specific in terms of skills development from what you're doing on coding boot camps. Are there specific technologies, specific languages, specific areas of technology that you're either finding there's more interest in or there's more demand in?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I completely agree with everything the panel said, especially about the constant disruption and the fact that, you know, not only students now need to learn coding, but also professionals who want to keep up with the technology, and Bhavish is a great example of that. And I think there's a perception that coding is only used to become a developer, where this is not the case at all. So when you learn how to code, and now coding is the second most popular language that people want to learn after English, by the way, when you learn how to code, you develop a new way of creative thinking and problem solving, which is the skills gap essentially. And so you develop what we call this computational thinking. That's the basis of the new normal. So this is going to help you in all sectors. And I think that we need to demystify coding in the sense that you think, oh, because you learn how to code, you're going to spend all your day behind a computer coding. But actually, it just switches your mindset. And, you know, people go on to roles such as product managers, accountant, as we said. There's a big relationship between data science and accounting. So at Le Wagon, we offer two different courses. We offer web development and data science. And actually, we've put in place a very interesting partnership in France with an association of accountants to teach them to not only analyze the data, because that they're perfectly capable of, but to construct predictive models and go a step further, which I think is exactly what Bhavish was saying. And, you know, accountants in France are the first data collectors. So it makes sense that they would be the first to get on this trend. In terms of technologies, so I mean, they're constantly evolving. At Le Wagon, we decided to teach Ruby, which is not at all the most popular. However, it's one of the easiest to learn. And the essence behind that is that we teach students to learn how to learn. And again, I think this is the big shift of mindset that's going on in education currently, is we need to develop our students and teach them to be able to learn by themselves afterwards. So after doing Le Wagon, myself as an example, so I was taught Ruby at Le Wagon, I went on to learn Python by myself. And that, I think, is a big shift in mindset that's happening. So I don't think we should teach specific technologies, but we should teach students how to learn by themselves.
Laura, could you give us an idea of sort of demographics of people that are coming onto your courses and upskilling or cross training? Can you give us an idea of
Sure.
What that looks like?
Totally. So our profiles are very varied. So we have students from 16-year-olds to 60-year-old. So the average age being 32-year-olds. So we have three types of profiles. We have profiles of young professionals who, for example, have a business degree and realize the importance of technology, so are going to go on to that. Then we have career switchers, so accountants, for example, or lawyers who realize the importance of technology in their field and who want to hop on board. So that's the second profile. And then we have entrepreneurs. So at Le Wagon, we design MVPs, so minimum viable products, during we construct them from scratch during the boot camp. So this allows entrepreneurs to be able to build the first version of their product as well. But so our profiles are varied. And in my class, for example, so I had done 3 years of investment banking before realizing I wanted to move into technology, and I had an accounting background myself. There was a lawyer in my class, there was a cook. It was very varied. So it's amazing to see that, you know, people from all backgrounds with no technical requirements are able to hop on this train and then have varied positions at the end.
Again, fascinating, right? I think people perhaps have a misconception about sort of boot camps, and, you know, perhaps it's just for sort of developers and people that want to be developers, and kind of grungy looking people that sort of sit behind a keyboard all day listening to heavy metal. But it's far from that, right? It's very different. It's very eclectic, the types of people now looking to transition, or at least get some skills and experience in technology so they can understand how the business works.
Yeah, definitely. However, the only issue there is we still don't have enough women. I think both in finance and in technology, this is a big problem. So I imagine FinTech is even a bigger issue. And I think, I mean, Chitisha would know this working in the field, but especially in data science, this is causing a big issue as, you know, there's a big gender bias in the algorithms that are being built. So actually, if we look at some statistics, 55% of women go to university in any fields. Then in STEM fields, it's 35% in universities. Then 25% of STEM jobs are females. And then in data science specifically, it's only 15%, which are female. So as you can imagine, this causes a big bias in data science.
I would like to come back on to specifically the gender topic shortly. Just before we do, I'd like to ask Vidia a question actually. What can industry do? So what can the FinTech industry do, or industry in general? But I know we're here talking about FinTech and payments today. What can the industry do to support skills development and upskilling workforce? Have you got a view on that?
Yes, sure. I think we have actually, as a leader of Ceridian in Mauritius, we felt in 2008, 2009, the constraint that we were having to have the right talent for growing our business. And at that time, we decided to start the Ceridian Learning Center, which has pioneered really the digital training in Mauritius at the time when Mauritius was talking about setting up an ICT academy. So how did we, Ceridian, contribute to that ecosystem and develop talent for our company? There are multiple work streams that we have used. First, recently, we have launched our Digital Innovation Lab in partnership with University of Mauritius on their campus. So this is going to provide an MSc Business Engineering with University of Mauritius. The first batch starts in October 2021. In actual fact, because of the confinement, we couldn't actually start earlier. But it's also open to other organizations, private and public companies who want to come here and work on projects to solve real life problems. And also this Digital Innovation Lab will act as an incubator. Secondly, we have App Factory. App Factory is a partnership with Microsoft for Africa. We launched this in Mauritius in 2017. And now it's been rebranded to Skills Lab, and Skills Lab provide employability and capacity building programs. And there are 25 Skills Lab in 10 African countries. It develops 21st century digital skills, cloud and emerging technologies, workplace readiness for the young graduates. And apprentice developers spend up to 6 months at the App Factory with senior software professionals, which Ceridian provides, to develop essential workplace skills and the ability to design and implement modern software solutions. Like Laura was saying, that the power of peer-to-peer learning is very, very strong. And in this environment, you have people from different companies. For example, we actually run this program. There's Microsoft, there's Ceridian, but there are also about 10 partners in Mauritius, which includes banks, insurance companies, technology companies, where they come to the center and talk about the problems or the assignments they've been having for their own organizations, and how each and everyone can actually suggest ideas, look at tools and technology. And if we need experts, this is where Ceridian would provide either locally, or we could look at the network through Microsoft and other technology companies. And the third one, what we name JEDI X program, which is a job experience and development internship, which we launch again for second year technology students with University of Mauritius and University of Technology Mauritius, is a program for 10 weeks that they come during their holidays, and they work week out with our folks, because we have over 130 engineers in our product and technology practice here, and they can learn in real life situation how we actually convert ideas into solutions, problem solving, testing, etc. So I would say that this has been the way we think that we can close the gap between academia and industry. And we have been a strong proponent of working with all the universities in Mauritius over the last few years, because I believe that we will always be ahead of academia. I mean, sometimes we talk about the skills gap, the time that where academia is going to surpass industry, then we have to be worried. Industry is always going to be ahead, and by partnering more strongly with academia, we can close the gap. And then just to finish off, we have been running hackathon. Laura mentioned about the low participation of girls in technology. So we were running the I Am the Code, which is a global network very much focused on teaching girls how to code. That's it's cool, it's not difficult, and that they can learn. And because this is going to create more jobs in the future. And then also we have run the Africa Code Week. We have also trying to introduce coding in schools in Mauritius with a BBC Microbit, which is a Raspberry Pi pocket-sized codable computer. We've done a pilot with a couple of schools, but now we're looking at the funding to actually launch this across all the schools in Mauritius.
Fantastic, Vidia. Thank you. So we've heard from industry. I'd like to focus a little bit more on the academic side. So Dr. Bhavish, Chitisha, you're both very different ends of the spectrum in terms of where you fit within educational institutions or your experience within those. There's a question that's come through actually from the audience, which is how can higher education address the convergence of technologies and sectors? So software development, engineering, finance, and others. So that's kind of the first question. Just to tag on to that, and perhaps slightly broader, is how are educational institutions helping students develop careers specifically in fintech? Because obviously we're cognizant of our audience here today. So let's keep it focused on fintech. Chitisha, but perhaps we can start with you. What's been your experience? I wouldn't say what have you learned, because we'll be here probably for another 3 weeks learning what you've learned, but high level, what's been your experience?
So I like to a reflection of my own case as a student and as a researcher in the field of information technology. So in my perspective, I feel that while the university already had the curriculum structured, it's already approved by higher authority. There still remains some path of improvement for students. We don't have really hands-on practical applications and involvement for students. And that's why I think in Ceridian, they are doing so many practical courses for them. And well, I'm very positive because we do have online courses, and we have expanding opportunities. We have Mooneegan courses, which are very interesting. And with the need for new technology, which is a constant, and being part of innovation in this area of fintech, it's very appealing. But aside to that, students are bounded curriculum, and exposure for job market experience is quite limited. So we have so many students faces challenges with integrating the evolving market with required skills. So we really need a change in that. We really need the acquisition of soft skills at the very basic with youngsters who are the future of tomorrow. We need to face the demands of the industry. We are talking here about communication skills. Yeah.
So you're breaking up a little bit, but I think I've caught the gist of that. I don't know whether your internet's a little unstable, but you're kind of coming in and out a little bit.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was talking about the acquisition of soft skills. Also, we have communication skills. We have so many skills that youngsters need to lay their hands on, and while the university will not be able to do everything for us, we have to do most part by ourselves. So a bit of coaching on our side will try to bridge the student difficulty and bring us to what the industry requires from us. Okay.
Chitisha, before we move on to Bhavish, because I really want to get his view on this as well, what would be your message to industry? If there was one thing that industry could do to help bridge this gap, okay, what would it be?
It will be to give students, to give youngsters the opportunity, even if they do not fit the requirements. and maybe to provide more in-house training for them. And maybe what would be interesting would be that if the industries could have hands-on practical at the university itself for us, like Ceridian is doing. That's a very interesting and motivating factor. And so we have, if we could get those industry people who to work with us and tell us where we are lagging, it would be very interesting and help us really.
Fantastic. So for everyone that's listening in here who has sort of some input, whether you're a CEO or a business owner, you run a department, you know, please take note. This is not staged. This is someone in the real world giving their true opinion of you know, how businesses and how industry can really help. So please do take note. Chitisha, thank you. Dr. Bhavish, over to you, sir. What would be your view? Now, I want to dive a little bit into some of the material you've been writing as well, specifically on the AI side. So perhaps you can sort of answer the question, but maybe from a different angle.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. So my point of view, first, from my experience, you know, higher education would definitely in the coming years need to address, you know, this convergence of technologies. This is from my experience, what I have been doing in Mauritius, you know, for the last 5 years. There is definitely a skills requirements in this technology field, whether we are talking about FinTech, biotechnology, in terms of cryptocurrencies, we are talking about blockchain, AI. So there is definitely, you know, one requirement for higher education now to provide these skills. So for the last 5 years, I have been trying to now get at the University of Mauritius, you know, some skills, some degrees that would address these skill needs. So we started with that. I've discussed with the ministry, with the corporates, in terms of mounting that program that would actually meet the requirements for businesses, for the country as well, in terms of converging towards that technology industry. That is very important. So when I first started, the issue was everything was set. We met all ministry leaders in terms of associations, professional associations. Everyone was agreeable that, you know, technology is the future. We need to invest there, and we need capacity there. So what we see, after everything was mounted, the issue was there was no one to teach. So this was one issue, because even then, you know, in terms of for capacity building, we need trainers, and there was no actually trainers. So I'm talking here 5 years back down the track. So then this is where we realized that first, to begin with, there should be a train on the trainers. So we started like looking for trainers in Africa, which is very close to Mauritius, in terms of, you know, we can probably diminish the expenses in terms of, you know, hiring foreigners to come and train. So eventually there was not many available. So we had to go to European countries, to US, to get at least, you know, some trainers. So this is where we started in terms of the trainers. So once this is set, now then we have already built an MSc FinTech, which is due to start, and this is being more or less funded and being backed by the Human Resource Development Council in Mauritius, actually to train there. However, then the next issue is there are currently many professionals. Let's say in Mauritius, we have our main pillars is tourism, financial services, and manufacturing. So in terms of financial services, what we see is mainly dominated by the offshore sector. So they are all agreeable that, you know, we have to go through that. However, then the issue becomes in terms of higher education, most of them are in the business related field, the economists, management, HR, finance, banking. So then how do we upskill them? Because then the issue is, it's not so easy. Like my experience when I had to reskill myself, I'm from an accounting background, from an economics background, going in terms of an MSc in terms of blockchain required high technical skills, programming skills, coding skills. This is where it becomes, very not confusing, but challenging. So other way around, there are those technology guys, computer engineering, high-tech engineering, they would need the finance background. So it's two ways. So this is where then we had, in terms of industry, we had to balance it in terms of it's kind of balancing a little bit of programming, a little bit of finance accounting background. So this is where, the contribution of education to, in terms of, the business side. However, as you rightly mentioned, FinTech technology is very broad. So it's very difficult then to get someone to be trained at 100% by a higher education institution. So this is where we need on a case-to-case basis for industry to tell us exactly, or they would have to train in terms of the specific areas where they need this capacity, because it's so broad in terms of where they want this skills person to be. So then the next strategy was then we had to call individual corporates in terms of mounting the program, because this should not be highly, as Chitisha rightly mentioned, in terms of industry. So it is halfway in terms of corporate training, that is, they go in that particular company, where half is in the university, half is in the corporate world. So they go there and actually try to get a real type situation where they are learning and trying to solve that particular situation. So then, this is how the contribution is being made, so that it becomes really in terms of what exactly the industry is looking, not in terms of highly theoretical, but this is where we are trying to help in terms of industries that, as and when the training is done halfway through the university, halfway through corporates, they are readily, available, those person graduating to go directly in the industry and to bring that skills there. So actually, I think, in my opinion, this is where we are moving.
Yeah, you're clearly both saying the same thing here, right? Yeah. Which is the industry needs to get closer to academia.
Exactly.
And we speak a lot in the fintech sector about fintegration, which is, the banks
exactly.
working with fintechs and the fintechs working with the banks. I'm trying to think of something similar, but my mind's not there at the moment. But something similar with industry and education, and so making that converge even closer. There's a couple of things I'm conscious we've got about 6 minutes left. Laura, I've got a question for you. Again, just moving slightly ahead. When it comes to gender inequality, which there clearly is, or gender bias, or however we want to sort of describe it, the question is, how do we get more women involved in STEM or technology across the continent? I'm not asking you to come up with the magic solution and the silver bullet, but even just some pointers or some examples of what you've seen. How do we get more women into this space?
Sure. So at Le Wagon specifically, we try to demystify what coding and data science are. And so we, to keep the conversation going, we organized events that are only dedicated to women. So we have 2 workshops that are only dedicated to women. So Women's Data Day, Coding Day, which are taught by women and are free and open to women only. So I think it's vital that we continue the conversation and organize events and continue the discussion around this. I think this is the only way that this will change and that will reverse the trend. But to finish on a positive note, though, in 2018, women's position in tech were growing 238% faster than men's position. So I do think we're on the right track. We just need to keep up the conversation.
Great, thank you very much. I've got one more question, and then I'm going to come to Chitisha. We mentioned right at the beginning, we were talking about sort of AI, and we're talking about software development, and we're talking about the future of jobs. There's a lot of talk. I was reading an article just last week about AI being used to actually develop platforms and to actually code. Okay, so the future of coding is actually probably done by AI as opposed to being done by teams and teams of developers. I would love to get people's opinions on the panel of that. you know, there's a lot of focus on people that want to get into fintech. Oh, I need to go to development. I'm going to be a developer and I'm going to go into that. Is there a future? Do we think that AI is going to take over some of these tasks? I know it's not going to replace, as the video was saying earlier, it's not going to replace us as human beings doing our jobs, but it is, you know, going to, you know, impact some of our roles. Really, really quickly, I'm just going to go around the virtual table, literally 10-15 seconds if you can. I'm going to start with Bhavish, if you can, because I know obviously you're doing a master's in AI. 10-15 seconds, your view?
Yeah, this would be very important because actually post-COVID, I would say that all countries as an accountant seeing so many firms going into financial trouble. And what is the next thing that they can do is AI. So AI is believed to reduce at least 40% of the cost of a company. So definitely there is room, but how we're going to do it is a big challenge, but we have to go there in a post-COVID area.
Brilliant, thank you. Laura?
Yeah, I agree. I completely think the future is AI. However, to go back to what Vidia said in the beginning, human skills are also increasingly important and will continue to increase with AI taking over. So I think we also need to put emphasis on that and not forget critical thinking, communication, collaboration.
Thank you, Laura. Chitisha, over to you.
Yes, what I feel is that everything that we want to accelerate and simplify the creation of enterprises, and we want our team to be productive. So AI does that. We cannot forget it. We need everything fast, easy, and everything at lower cost than traditional methods. So I agree with what you say. It's completely, it's something that we cannot forget, and we have to implement in the future.
Great. Vidia, given you started this conversation, I'll let you finish it. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay. I would say that today data is so critical and AI is going to push us even further. I think what we as humans today are doing in our jobs, AI will push the human involvement even further, that territories that we haven't been yet. So I think this will be an evolving process, and that's why I think everyone, governments need to continue investing in education and training despite what happens because of COVID. Business leaders need to create the space for their people to recycle so that they are always ahead of the transition and the disruption. And students need to learn. I mean, you don't have any excuse today not to acquire those skills. It's so much in abundance online. And also the education institutions, also big message for them. They have been very inflexible sometimes. It takes so long to revisit a syllabus. I think they have to go now in a much more agile way, because by the time they approve a curriculum, it's already outdated. So I think everybody, business leaders, governments, students, and institutions in education, all of us needs to rethink this topic.
Wonderful. We are literally, I think we've got about 30 seconds left. So I would just like to thank you all. Thank you so much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot, and I hope our audience has as well. For me, the biggest takeaway was, I think, Chitisha and Bhavish just, hammering home the fact that industry needs to get closer to academia. We need to make sure that there isn't a divide, there is convergence, and that there is constant conversations, communications. So I think we're just on time. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. Lisa, the MAFH team, over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.